technology executive for probably the last 30 years.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Haida Hub podcast AI Talks, where we connect enterprises and startups who are solving complex business problems with AI. In this show, we bring AI, which has been a promise, into reality, right? Today, we have Shaun Neal, who has an extensive background in technology and also financial industry experience, who actually has started on a venture of his own, building Fractional CFO, I should say, in terms of building an AI CFO, more of an AI CFO, to help startups and entrepreneurs to actually take their business functions and make it more scalable at a fraction of the cost. Without further ado, I'll actually ask Shaun to introduce himself, because I won't be doing justice talking about his experience, because if you go to his LinkedIn profile, you can see that Shaun has worked in some large companies and brings a tremendous technical and also business expertise. Shaun, welcome to the podcast, and introduce yourself to the audience.
All right, thanks. Yeah, thanks for that wonderful introduction. I'm not sure I'm going to follow that up, but I'll certainly try. So I've been a technology executive for probably the last 30 years. Most notable in my history is working at Merrill Lynch for about 9 years. So I got the Wall Street experience. I was mostly in the finance side. So I was director of the operations, all the technology that supported the business, essentially, any of the non-trading stuff. And then later in my career, worked as the chief technology officer for a credit card company. I did that for 7 or 8 years, built the company from about 25 employees to over 300. And then most recently, I launched a B2C consumer banking app. So a lot of experience in the FinTech space as well. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. I think I would definitely want to delve into that 25 employee company. You scaled it up to 3,000 employees. But now in the age of AI, what would that look like? We can definitely talk about that as we talk through how you're accelerating your startup with AI. What made you realize that? I think before that, maybe we should talk about what Quantari is, and then we can talk about what business problem we are trying to solve over there.
Sure. Yeah. My current startup, I have a co-founder who's the operator of a bookkeeping service. And he actually came to me with a technical ask to build this platform that would, for lack of a better word, put him out of business. He wanted to pivot from doing people's books and offering fractional CFO service to becoming a technology company. And I was hired to build this platform. And after we put out the MVP, I decided to become a partner in the company as well. So this platform allows small business owners to get access to CFO level services for a fraction of the price.
Yeah. And do you believe when your partner came to you that, hey, this is an interesting idea, perhaps I can leverage AI to build it faster? One is obviously the building process of the technology, and the other one is the AI infused in everything that you do on the business workflow. So what made you realize that I can definitely use the AI for building something like this?
Yeah, it was right, of course, it was right up my alley, because I've done finance work for the last 25 years. So that was certainly in my wheelhouse. And I would say 9 or 10 months ago, I had been still hand coding everything. And my son actually said, hey, you need to check out GPT. This thing is like really crazy at coding. And I was very skeptical. And I said, no, I can't write code. That's crazy. And after a couple of hours, I just realized from a pure development standpoint, how transformative it was just writing code. And that was, I think, GPT-4, 4.5. And GPT-5 has only just gotten exponentially better. For sure, I was already in the phase of writing entire systems in a week. It was just crazy. So I was like, yeah, for sure. We can produce a system very rapidly, prototype something for very little money using AI tools for that. And not only for the programming, but also for, it's interesting how you can use LLMs in a meta way, because a lot of our back end is an LLM. So when the user presents a question or we do some analysis, we call LLMs to do the analysis. And a lot of that has to do around prompt engineering. And LLMs are really good at doing their own prompt engineering. So yeah, I saw a lot of opportunity to engage AI for the development process of an AI-based product.
Got it. So you're using GPT-5 for your developing the product, and obviously you're using that in your product as well on the business workflow. At a high level, we talked about building a fractional CFO, right? But what does the product do? I know we are still in the early access things, but at high level to the audience, what does Quantari do and why they should? If I were a small business user owner who was listening to this podcast, I hope that they would do. Why should they come to Quantari?
Sure. So it provides a conversational interface to your finances, which is essentially what a normal CFO would do. So if you envision, hey, I'm going to hire a CFO, what's that person going to do? They're going to look at your bank account history. They're going to look at your accounting history, whether it's QuickBooks or Xero or something else. And then they're going to start to do some analysis and make some recommendations and make some observations. So that's the same workflow that we go through. We onboard the client with a conversational interface. So the first thing it says is, hey, tell me a little bit about your business. And then based on your responses, it categorizes whether you're retail or wholesale or industrial. It says who your primary clients are, your geography, your size, all the different metrics, just in a conversational way. And then once it's done, it connects to your bank accounts and to your QuickBooks or Xero or whatever else. And then it does an analysis and it comes back with, hey, looks like you have a whole bunch of accounts receivable. Why? What's wrong with this client? Why have they paid for 4 months? Those kinds of things. So it provides like immediate insights to all of your financial data, but in a conversational, understandable way, so that the average person who's running a small HVAC shop can say, okay, I don't really know what accounts receivables are, but I know that this guy hasn't paid me for 4 months and I better go do something about it.
Got it. So how do you, obviously the translating the financial expertise, obviously you had a founder who has domain expertise, so that comes with it. But if I'm a individual bookkeeper, CFO, I have access to my accounts, I download these things into QuickBooks or whatever. How do you build this trust in your system in terms of, okay, AI, now I'm actually giving access to GPT-5, my bank account, and also to my QuickBooks? That's obviously a big challenge. Even enterprises are struggling as well. How are you trying to tackle that problem?
Well, I think from a trust standpoint, it's going to come from the people, right? Myself and the co-founder, we've been around for a while and we have some pretty significant business histories. Yeah, I think from that standpoint, it's really just trust in the people and building an ecosystem. But we found this is the stuff that bookkeepers already have access to, right? You've already delegated access to your bank account and to your QuickBooks for your bookkeeper. You have to. So I think this is just an extension of that. And as part of the human onboarding process where we meet with a small business owner before they start to use the product, we can allay some of those fears.
Got it. Yeah, I think that's going to go there. Obviously, that's going to be the technical hurdle, right? The AI, just making sure the governance and security and all those things are there. But also making sure that the people that you are trying to onboard, they are comfortable with that as well. So there's a human aspect of it, plus the technology aspect of it. Yeah. And let's talk about some customer validations. I know you're still working with beta customers or early access customers. What is the most entrepreneurs are actually, what are they super excited about that, hey, you know what, wow, this is like something that will be game changing for me?
So I think one of the access issues for small business owners and particularly founders, that what we found as a niche market for us is that they just can't get any advice at all, right? They don't have any idea about how to run their businesses from a financial standpoint. They all have great ideas about product and market and building the interfaces, but from a finance standpoint, they just have no idea at all. And so what we found is that people are engaging with the idea of getting conversational access to their financial data. That's super important for people who have only 1 or 2 people in their company or companies that have 2 employees. That's super, super valuable.
Yeah. And also getting a high cost employee to do the work, a consultant to do the work. Now they are getting at a fraction of the cost. Are there any features that the customers are asking for that you didn't anticipate? Obviously, the thing, as you meet every new prospect, you actually would come across, hey, wow, this is an interesting thing that they're asking for.
Oh yeah, for sure. We've done many interviews and actually we're on the third iteration of the product. One of the first things that we did was just build sort of like a chat GPT on top of your finances. So your initial experience was log in, give us some basic information, connect your bank account, and then ask a question. And many of our initial demos went very poorly because people didn't know what question to ask. So from a UX standpoint, I think when you're developing a system, doing initial customer validation is super important. And then what we figured out was when you hire a CFO, they look at your books, they look at your bank accounts, they understand your business, and then they tell you, right? It's not, you don't ask them, they tell you. And so we've completely changed the paradigm to be much more of a push where we do all the intake, we collect all the data, and then we tell you, here's the different things that I see. Your employees are seasonal, but you don't have enough cash reserve to maybe meet payroll for the next 6 months, like those kinds of things. Yeah, we definitely iterated on that based on our customer feedback of you need to be the employee who's doing the work, not just being prodded.
Yeah. One of the hardest problems speaking to founders is where do I stop, right? So in terms of the product features, obviously you can keep adding features. Like when do you think that, okay, I need to go beta now, right? When will I go GA? What are the features? Obviously it's a big challenge for everybody, right? Because customers keep asking for new features, but at some point you got to say, okay, this is it. I'm going to go to market with it and not just keep adding features for every small customer.
I think we're nearing that point. So the current iteration of our design is, like I explained, but we've added a very flexible dashboard. So once you've been onboarded, there are widgets on the dashboard which display things like runway or cash position or accounts receivable, accounts payable, but presented in regular people terms, not financial terms. And the idea is that as people ask us for new things, like one of the things we got was, is my company ready to be funded? What do I need to do to check some boxes to go before VCs? And so we're adding am I fundable widget to the dashboard. So the idea was we've got this core toolbox of things that most people are going to ask us. And then as we get new requests, we're just going to add them as widgets to the dashboard. But yeah, I think we're like 80 to 90% of the way of those, whatever those widgets are for functionality.
Got it. So it's interesting that you said that am I fundable if they want to go and raise some money as well? Is that what the feature is? Like,
yeah, for sure. So I think part of what our vision is that this is a platform which will help two people, right? It's going to help the founders understand what they need to do to be fundable, right? So do I have the proper financial controls and metrics in place? And two is help VCs or angels understand if these businesses are investable. So we've actually got interest from several VC ecosystems to say, hey, if funders use this product, we will help them get funded because it's getting validated by a third party.
Okay. So that's an interesting thing. So it's not only small business owners, but it could also be used by small startups who are actually trying to raise more funding in different rounds. Right?
Yeah. And we're actually finding more traction in that arena. Recently. Yeah, it's very interesting.
It's very interesting. Like as you evolve the product, you don't know where
you don't know which direction.
Yeah. But it's an interesting space though. Yeah. So what do you say makes your the differentiation in the market? Obviously, FinTech is a crowded space. There is obviously legacy players and also new entrants coming every day. What do you say makes your product and your approach unique?
Look, it's always, I think, about the people, right? There's a unique combination between my partner and I of our experience. And how many former CTOs of a credit card company are going to go off and form an accounting AI startup, right? The number's got to be a handful, if that, right? So it's the unique combination of my partner and I that I think bring a lot of value, because we have like very quick business insight. We can iterate and develop very quickly. We don't have to do discovery about a certain topic area, right? We've both done it for 20 years. I think it's our deep experience that's going to let us be able to iterate quickly.
Correct. I agree with you. I think AI make the level the playing field for a lot of people, but it's the people and the team actually makes a big difference. The diverse experience that you bring, and also the trust factor, right? Like you said, being a CTO or CIO in the past brings a trust factor that, especially in a financial software like this. What do you see as the future of Quantari? Are you looking to launch GA anytime? Is there a timeline that everybody should be looking for? What are the different milestones you're marching towards?
Yeah, so we have several beta clients, which was from my partner's bookkeeping firm. We're still, like I said, we're still iterating. We're actually part of an accelerator called Conscious Venture Labs, which is based out of Baltimore. Just a wonderful program, highly recommend it. We had to apply and get approved and everything. That kind of ends in like January. And I think at the end of that process, we're going to be ready to really blow the doors off of this and take off. So I think we're like a couple months out.
Yeah, that's exciting, right? I guess right after Christmas, maybe.
Yeah.
But we will definitely link Conscious Venture Labs URL into the show notes as well, because as you are targeting the startups, and our target segment is startups and others watching this podcast, I'm pretty sure they'll benefit from accelerator like them. And also,
we're super, if anybody wants to help beta test, we're super interested in getting feedback and incorporating early adopter features. So if a small business or a startup person says, hey, I really wish you could build this, we are highly motivated to do those things. Please.
And we'll definitely put your link in the show notes as well, and your LinkedIn profile as well. The website is Quantari, like in quant, right? And then ARI dot AI. That's the website, but we'll definitely add the link there. Shaun, let me ask you a question. I think, which I said I will ask you in the end, which is, okay, when this was probably in the past, that you built a 25-person company to scale up to 3,000. Now, if you were to start now, obviously you're starting now, if you are a CTO of a large company, what would you say that, okay, how do I really need that? Obviously, there is obviously discussion about AI taking jobs away and things like that. But do you really, if you are a CTO now starting, what would the size be, hypothetically?
Oh, a tenth, it would be hard, right? First of all, the credit card company has a huge customer service footprint. Those jobs will not exist in 18 months. Those kinds of jobs are definitely going away, right? And then a lot of the internal stuff is around developers and creating systems, right? Because a credit card company is really a technology company. That's really all it is. And the inefficiencies of the missed communications and interpersonal discussions and BAs not getting full requirements, all those kinds of things, replacing those processes with AI, I don't know if you call it agents or employees or whatever, the efficiencies that you have with GPT or Claude or whatever your tool of choice is are, first of all, exponential. GPT-5 came out, 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? And GPT, when I was using GPT-4, 4.5, it would lose context after, say, 200 or 300 lines of code. It would start to make mistakes, and you really couldn't feed it more than 7 or 8 files. With GPT-5, I can feed it 10 to 15 files of 500 or 600 lines of code each, and then it will spit back 500 or 600 lines of code after 10 or 15 seconds. Like, I can literally generate 20,000 lines of code a day, no problem. That did not exist, of course, even 3-4 weeks ago. So when you talk about scaling technology companies, they are going to be much, much smaller. The revenue per head count is going to be astronomical. I think you're going to see huge business efficiencies from this, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think efficiency is a big one. Operational efficiency, everybody's talking about it. I think developer experience and also productivity has been, I would say that's probably the number one thing that this AI LLMs have brought us, right? Even in our company, everywhere, we're using Copilot or one of those things, right? I think where obviously we need to see that thing is on the business side of it, right? Especially with, you talked about agents, like how agents can take over some of I think the customer services are easy, low hanging fruit. But in terms of, okay, other things, like look at what you're doing, like a CFO, right? Job. If it can take that, I think that'll be awesome.
But
But
one of the things I worry about is, I've been programming for probably close to 50 years now. I worry about the pipeline of entry level people because although GPT-5 can code, it still needs review and it still needs a framework and it still needs context, right? You don't just take it and cut and paste it without reading it and understanding it. And what's the next generation of experienced developers look like? I'm not sure where that comes from. Because if you don't need programmers anymore, where do they get their experience from? So there's probably some opportunity there.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. But Shaun, I think this has been a wonderful experience talking to you, getting to know your startup as well. And thank you for taking the time to talk to us. And and thanks everyone. We'll talk soon in another podcast very soon. Thank you.